Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, my single viewer. Who are you? Good afternoon. Anyone want to say hi? You can't stay. You're just working, saying hi. Cheers, mate. Thank you very much. I've actually got you on my list today, Josh. These are the packages I need to send out. You're on there, so hopefully I'll have time to put it together and get it in the post in the next day or two. Num, 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 num. Hello, Juan. How are you doing? Thank you for joining. Hi, Tim. How are you today? I see we're stocking up on the vintage Syrian big time. Well, if you're still here, Josh, I'll show you my the cupboard that I put together. It's nothing like yours. You obviously made yours, whereas mine is just a flat pack. So I'll show you that quickly, and then I want to do first impressions of one of these. We'll talk about that in a minute. So firstly, first thing I did is I moved my cupboard from there, so all of that's got to be redecorated. Moved it from there to there, so we're nice and ship shape, a bit more organised. And the cupboard itself that I made is this. So I've started to think about putting some pipes in there, and that drawer's empty. A fair amount of tobacco in there. We're getting pretty full already. And those are some of the vintage ones. So that's what I've been doing the past day or two. I'm really happy with the results. And I swapped out the rack that's on the table, the pipe stand. The ones that I've had till now, and which are in the cupboard that I've just showed you, those were all made by Paul Turnock. Don't know if you guys remember him or not. But this one is actually one which I bought on eBay. And the reason why I put this one on the table is because I can put 7 pipes on this as opposed to the others, which are 6. So it's nice to change things up every so often, give you a bit of a fresh feel. So the primary reason for coming on is I was going to do a first impressions, and I figured why not do it live, and we can always answer questions as we're going along. It's not going to be an hour or two, anything like that, maybe half an hour, something like that. So I've been smoking a lot of vapors recently, a lot of Virginias, as you know. So a Scudo I have had once before, right at the beginning of my journey. I tried a Scudo, probably didn't like it at the time because I wasn't smoking Virginias. I certainly wasn't smoking vapors at the time. So to all intents and purposes, it will be a first impressions. Acadian Perique, again, being that I've been looking at vapors, so I wanted to try this one as well. It looks like it's, not the most, I don't see it around that much on people's channels. So this is Virginia, Burley's, Cavendish, Dark Fired and Orientals, and of course Perique. So actually, Tim, I think this might appeal to you. A bit of everything in there, bit of a kitchen sink kind of blend. And well, Escudo, Josh, I know is good. It's very commonly smoked, and it's going to be similar to Dunhill Navy rolls and flake medallions and cask number 7 from Camoys. All of those kind of spun roll bullseye type things. But I've been finding after smoking them, especially the Dunhill Navy rolls for a while, that I'm finding them not full enough. They're finding them quite mild. So this one is supposed to be a little bit more punchy, and this one, although it's not a spun roll, this one I expect will be more flavourful. And this one is, I think it's a relatively cheap Cornell and Deal Vapor. I think it's got Cavendish in as well. What have we got here? A blend of red bright and Stove's red Virginias with a dash of Perique and toasted Cavendish. So it should be a nice vapor rounded off with the Cavendish, probably smooths it out a little bit. I just thought I'd give it a try. So my question is which one to go for. Any help on that one? What do we say? The Escudo I'm going to actually discount because it's going to be very similar. I know it's very similar to the others, so it's not going to be a major surprise for me. So I will do that at some point, but I think I'm going to discount that for now. So the Acadian Perique I think makes the most sense because it's H.H. MacBaren. It's a more widely, yeah, I think so. Right, so let's go for the fizz. There we go. Hi Ellie. Don't think we've seen you on here before. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Interesting, it's quite dark and deep in there. In terms of age, what does it say? October 17. Okay, so it's got 6 months on it. At least it's not brand new. It's got, it's definitely got that little bit of a fruity, sweet kind of aroma to it. Very similar to what you get on the other vapors. But it's also got something in the background, almost like a deeper, darker, drier, like a dry cocoa, like an earthy cocoa kind of aroma there on the back of it. Okay. It's quite densely packed. Well, I've got to decide on a pipe. It feels pretty ready. There's a little bit of moisture there, but just maybe a couple of minutes air time should be fine. I think I'm going to use the Parker. Love this Parker, I really do. I've shown it off a lot. It's just the ring grain on this is just phenomenal. Incidentally, I don't know if you saw my IG post just a few minutes ago. Got an order in from, this came in from Fort Noggin, 5 days. It's I think a record for any of my shippings. I've got a box of these from there as well. 5 days from the USA, unfettered by customs, thankfully. So I'm really very, very happy with that. So these Dr. Pearls, they're not the double-sided ones. They're plastic on one side. The plastic goes on the stem end. Okay. That's pretty good. I have yet to do an order from Cuppa Joe's. I keep going on their site, filling up a basket and then not doing it. I don't know, I'll just have to get there one day and do it. Do you message them at all, or you just leave it to them and they ship it nicely? Did you get tax on that, Tim? Okay, ready to spark her up? Oh, cool. It's not producing a huge amount of smoke initially. Hey Joe, how you doing? Well, first off, first couple of draws, really not that much flavour at all. Well, the initial flavours are quite a dry flavour. I'm not getting any fruity flavours at all. Not yet, anyway. Just read that description again. So, dark fried Kentucky, Cavendish birdies. The birdies I'm getting. And I think the dark fried Kentucky, although I'm not really that familiar with Kentuckys and to be able to identify it, but I think that kind of sort of bright, spicy kind of flavour is the Kentucky. I might be wrong. Orientals, maybe a bit. Okay, I think we're starting to get a hint of fruity sweetness coming through now. Usually, when you get a sort of a shag or a ribbon type tobacco, usually all of the components, they're all in there. It's all one big mishmash, and you don't really expect to get much of an evolution through the bowl or changes. Whereas if you get a spun coin, or flakes, stuff like that, and if you don't break it up too much, you can get variations in the smoke, depending on what you happen to be combusting at any given moment. Or I know some people, they do layers. If they do a mix-up of tobaccos, for example, like London Fog. London Fog's not a good example because they're both mainly Virginias, but the components. But if, say, for instance, you've got, say, a Latakia blend with a Virginia blend, or even pure Latakia and pure Virginia, I've seen that people sometimes layer their bowls. So they'll start off with a Virginia base, add some Latakia, then Virginia again, and then you certainly will get an evolution through the bowl. It's a nice way to do things. I've never tried that myself. It's something I'd like to do at some point. Hi, Quaker. but I've not tried that yet. But it's interesting, this Acadian Perique, it started off really, really mild, not much happening. It was just the burleys that I was getting through, and then it's building really, which is nice. Hey Chris, haven't seen you in a long time. How you doing? How's that humidor I sent ages ago? Interesting flavours. On the draw, you're getting burleys and the Kentucky, which I'm guessing is the Kentucky. You're getting that straight away. There's a little bit of a pepper on the retrohale, and then as the draw sort of wallows around your mouth, if you like, you start to get that Perique coming through. I would imagine that this would be lovely with a sweet drink, maybe a sweet tea, something like that. I was going to say, hi Smoky Mo, how you doing? Nice to see you on the channel. I don't know whether to say sorry about that, Chris, or happy for you. It really depends on the situation. You know, sometimes, I don't speak from experience, but some people it's a huge relief going through a divorce, and for some people it's not. So either way, I hope it goes as smoothly as it possibly can, with as little fallout as possible. So we're doing this live first impressions of HH Acadian Perique. Started off in the beginning. I wasn't. I was starting to get a bit worried that it's not something I would like. Definitely had burleys at the beginning, which I'm not a big fan of, but it's definitely developing this bowl. It's interesting. I would say that. So, how are we all doing? Quaker, how are you doing? Smoky Mo, I saw you had a video up today, or was it yesterday, American time, but I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. Yeah, I saw that you saw my comment, my video on your giveaway, Tim. Very nice giveaway, I must say. Nice and easy for everybody to respond to. That seems to be the fashion these days, with people just making them a little bit easier to contribute. You're smoking Clan, oh my gosh. Hi Briarbeard, how you doing? Have you been watching for a few minutes, or have you not heard any of what I've said about the Acadian? Okay, so what I've said so far for Briarbeard is the Acadian Perique. I've not seen it on very much on people's channels. It doesn't seem to be one of the high flyers, but Virginia journey and vapor journey, it's one I wanted to try. So it seemed to have the good constituent parts which I thought would, really interest me. So it's got Virginia's Burleys, Cavendish, Dark Fired Kentucky, Orientals, and Acadian Perique. Now, when I first fired it up, I definitely was really just getting the Burleys, and I'm not a big Burley fan, so I was a little bit unhappy about that. But this bowl is evolving, no question about it. Definitely was getting a bit of a pepper retrohale, and the Perique is coming through now. It's starting to get a little bit of fruity sweetness, finishing off that each draw, where you do get that burley in the beginning, but it does finish off very nicely with that Perique. I personally can't really see what the Cavendish is doing. It may just be a filler, a mixer. And I'm not really getting a huge sort of taste of Virginia. It's just really burley and a Perique, and the Kentucky as well. I will say that, as much as I understand of Kentuckys anyway. It is burning quite warm, and I'm not smoking it too fast, I'll say that. Producing a good amount of smoke. Combustion's okay. There was a little bit of humidity in there, but very smokable. Maybe that's why it's a bit warm. I should have maybe left it out a little bit longer, but obviously wouldn't have made for very interesting viewing to just watch tobacco dry. It's like watching paint dry. Perhaps mildly more interesting. That's interesting about Brybeard. What would you name as your top 2 or 3 blends? Getting a little bit of a nutty flavour coming through now. But definitely, I should have known by looking at the ingredients. Burley is the number 2 on there, and I'm going to assume, as with food, that the percentages of the components dictates the position in the ingredients. So Virginia's is the main one, then Burley's, and well, it says a fair amount of Perique. I don't know if that still means it's the least amount because it's the last item, but I think what I would want to do with this is add something a little bit sort of lower down the flavour profile, and something like a Red Virginia, like a Red Cake, McClellan's 5100, or something similar to that, obviously depending on availability, just to give that middle ground, to give it a little bit of meatiness. I think that would really improve this blend. But it just, the Kentuckys and the Burleys do give it a savoury edge, which I think could work if it was more balanced. For me, obviously, maybe it's directed at Burley fans who want to also smoke, get some Perique and other things. But for me, based on my preferences, I'm not a Burley fan, but I can appreciate what Burley can bring to a blend. So whilst I wouldn't want necessarily a heavy Burley forward blend, I can appreciate that dry, savoury, sort of nutty or dry cocoa, almost cardboard sometimes flavour. It could add something to a blend. So if this was a more rounded, balanced blend to my preferences, I could enjoy it. So I think that I'm going to try that. I'll smoke it more, so that to make sure that I'm appreciating it properly. But I will try mixing it with something a little bit beefier to round it off a bit. And I think it does need a touch more sweetness. It's quite savoury with those Burleys and the Kentuckys. Yeah, I could see where you are, where you're going with quiet nights. I'm pretty much off Balkans at the moment, with the odd bowl here and there, but I find that I've smoked it more in the winter months. What's up, Quaker? What's the bull for? Are you saying that I'm talking bull? Won't be the first time. So any of you guys going to the pipe show, the Chicago Pipe Show? Must be in about a week or so, no? 10 days? Something like that? I think quite a few people from the UK go, which I was quite surprised. It's quite a long way to go. But I've certainly seen some UK guys there in the past on the videos. Well, hello Andy, how are you? The next up-and-coming pipe carver will soon be at $500 a pop. Alright, Briarbeard, thank you very much for popping in. Have a great day. Enjoy your Balkans. Hi Andy, how you doing? Long time no speak. We're just doing a first impressions live of HH Acadian Perique. I'm trying to sort of Lancer slices. Okay, I don't think I've ever had them. Is that a Balkan blend? I've mentioned this point in some of my previous live videos. I do find that American carvers, their prices shoot up as soon as they get a little bit popular. Prices just go through the roof, and it's sort of unreachable for a lot of people, which is a bit of a shame. But I guess you're catering for a huge audience in America compared to the UK. You know, over here we can get a Northern Briars. You're being grumpy now. Northern Briars over here for £100 odd, a really nice one. But in America, they'll go for a premium. So they're obviously a good pipe. But somebody like Ian Walker from Northern Briars, he's been carving for 60 years. He's in his 60th anniversary year now. And his prices are still very, very approachable. I think his most expensive top of the range pipe is going to sort of knock you about £130. That's it. This is one of his. This is a Quebec from him, and I've gone on this one with all the adornments. So a really nice grainy piece of briar, a sterling silver band, and a Cumberland stem, a real Cumberland stem. I think this one cost me £126, which is very, very good value. Hey Lack, how you doing? In America, I will say this: the American pipes are very pretty. Once you know the people that once they're experienced and they really got into all of the various different options in terms of adornments and things like that, and become skilled. Sorry, just opening my blind here. And they've become skilled at making pipes look pretty. They are beautiful pipes. You can't argue with that. My Paul's pipes, each and every one of them is an absolute masterpiece from Paul Menard. His ones actually are not ridiculously expensive. I think he's about $225 at the moment, which is pretty good. The Danish ones, I tell you that, the Danish prices are really, they're nuts, really nuts, really crazy. You got people charging thousands of dollars for pipes. I can't subscribe to that. Yeah, I mean they're considered masters, in pipe carving, but even so, it's. I think there has to come a limit at some point. Yeah, that's true. French pipes are well priced, but they're also quite. Yeah, I mean Julie is just ridiculous. Her prices. I mean, $7,000-8,000 for a pipe, which is. Yeah, they're very nice. I don't even see hers being exceptional for that kind of price. She's got some arty, the coloured, multifaceted ones, which, okay, it's a matter of taste, absolutely. But even if you like them, I don't see them as being executed so vastly superior to some of the others. I mean, some of the more classical Danish ones, for me, they're stunning to look at. They get the best out of the grain, but still, $3,000-4,000 for a pipe to me is ridiculous. "100%, Andy. If you're going to buy a Dunhill pipe, you know that you're going to get a good drill and you're going to get a good draw. Are Dunhill pipes worth 3-4 times other carvers? I'm not so sure. If you buy a Paul Menard pipe, he's a perfectionist. His drillings generally will be spot on, beautifully carved, very precisely made, and for $225, I think that's fair. Well, Josh, you could say the same thing about a Rolls Royce. You put that on fire as well. Or a Lamborghini. Every time you turn the key, you're turning them on. You're turning a fire on, aren't you? Here's a bent egg Quaker. That's a Soren Rifberg pipe. I think in Anne Julie's case, that is definitely part of the reason why she's making so much money. Hey, Seawave Piper, how you doing? That Soren Rifberg pipe was, I think I paid $90 for it. No, €90. Are you late? Well, this is not going to be a long one. This was just the first impressions of Acadian Perique, which I'm pretty clear on what my first impression is. So we will wrap it up soon, but we are getting quite busy. We've got 15 people watching now, so we'll see how we go. the thing is about Danish carvers is that they are good at their trade, and they are perfectionists, and you don't often see them putting out a bad pipe with bad grain. I'm talking about the ones who are putting out the high-end ones. You can get a Winslows you can get. You can get Nerups, but they're not in the same league. They're good pipes, smoke very, very nicely. I really enjoy them, but they're not in the same league. There's no question about that. And the ones who are charging $500 upwards, the grain on those are perfect mostly, and obviously the more perfect they are, the more you're gonna pay. The rarer the briar, and there's no question about them. If you go on the Danish pipe shop, you look at the 500 plus euro pipes, and you will see a marked difference in the quality of the briar and in the finish of the shape. How perfect the shapes are. But one thing which you have to realize is that a lot of it is down to the briar. Yes, I mean, again, I'll use Paul Menard as an example. His staining and finishing is on par with anybody else. In fact, he's superior to many, many pipe carvers when it comes to his finishing and his staining. His staining is stunning. And it's just down to the briar. And I think that a lot of these Danish carvers, they're spending a lot of money on briar. To get a perfect briar, yes, you have to be lucky. But when they're cutting up those root balls of briar, they can see, where the grain is going. They can't see inside if there's flaws. That's true. Obviously, a high percentage get dumped because of the flaws, or they become seconds. But when they cut it up, they can certainly see if there's a good grain pattern there, which is a good starting point. Then obviously it's down to luck. But these Danish carvers must be spending more on higher grade briar. So as a starting point, they're going to be charging more. But still, I can't get with spending £5,000 on a pipe. Did anybody see that case that what's his name made on Danish Pipe Shop? Yeah, okay, fair enough. Whether it's Mr. Brog or that kind of thing, that's okay. You pay a good price for it. It's the same as the Parker range of pipes, which started off as seconds to Dunhills. But that's okay, as long as it's known what it is and they're not trying to palm it off as something that it isn't. I don't have a problem with that. Paul the Scandinavian, how are we? Tom Eltang, he's starting to move over to really high prices, but still his pipes are approachable. You can still get a decent Eltang for €400-500. Did any of you see that case of what is it? How many 17 pipes is it that he made? You can still see it. It's not available anymore. Oh no, it is available. You have to ask for a price. All right, if you can afford it. Actually, I'm not that impressed with the staining on these, to be honest. It's a little bit too dark. I'm not making the most of it. The golden contrast. And the grain on these are very good, but they're not the absolute best. This is Anne Julie. ridiculous. €10,000. I mean, that's ridiculous. So for this pipe, she could use the worst grade briar if she wants, and nobody would know the difference. It's rusticated, it's painted, it's stained, so you're not seeing any briar. Can you tell me why this is worth €10,000? Besides for it looking a bit unique and a kid's drawn all over it. This is why you're paying 10,000. That signature. I mean, all she's done is you've got a jade Cumberland stem, and she's engraved her name on that and just made it look rough looking. It's not worth €1,000 in my opinion. Never mind €10,000. Fugly. I think you're right, Paul. You know, it never actually occurred to me. I think you're absolutely right. It's for the oligarchs. You know, they're just paying because it's. I mean, look at that draft hole there. You know, where's the skill in that draft hole? It's not fanned. It's not equal. It's not even in the middle of the bit. That's ridiculous. That is ridiculous. Sorry, Julie. €5,000. Do you know what? I think Paul Menard pipes are better than this any day of the week. And I'm not a huge Paul Menard fan. I'm a big fan, but I'm not, you know, just completely besotted with his pipes. But I'm trying to find a good example here of some. There we go. See, that's got some stunning grain. It's €3,000. I think it's still a lot of money, but it's not perfect grain. It's nice. It is stunning. It is beautiful. These are not bad. Still €1,000 for a smooth. But you can see the grain is not quite there. It's very nice, but it's not quite there. So you do pay significantly for the grain. And that's not down to the skill of, well, to some extent it is to make the best out of the grain, but that's really down to the luck of the draw. You know, you can't really. I do love Costello pipes. I just wish they would do a filtered one. See, that's very nice. Yeah, a couple of little flaws there, but still, it's got lovely grain on that. Lovely grain. I really like that. It's got a beautiful bird's eye on the base. €824. That's pretty expensive. But I do like their pipes. I like that 55 shape. Another Danish carver. So. I mean, I think that the pricing is reasonable on this. It's not cheap, but it's the grain. The briar is not there, if you ask me. It's not there, and I don't think the carving is so exceptional to make it €380 either. Personally, okay, these are retail prices, so we have to make an allowance for that. Come on, €1,700? Seriously? Why? I don't get it. Yeah, it's got a nice enough grain on it, but nothing exceptional. Not exceptional at all. I'm trying to find an exceptional pipe here, but I'm struggling. been there, done that. See, if I was going to spend €240, I think I'd get a nicer pipe from Paul Menard. What else have we got here? Yeah, these are not a bad price. Not bad. Not bad at all, actually. Nary and 9mm amongst them, though, so no interest to me. Yeah, these aren't bad. Not bad for the money. Not bad. Not bad. €350. Not bad. Not bad. Alright. Enough showing off the Danish pipe shop. And I'm very happy to show them off because I actually really like their shop. I'm glad to be of service, Joe. That's interesting to hear, Lack. Maybe you should be buying them and selling them to us. Well, that's the case everywhere. As I was saying earlier on, a Northern Briars pipe here will cost you, say, anywhere between £70 and £120. In America, it'll cost you $200. Who, the Danish pipe shop? Yeah, I think they are. Their tobacco is very pricey, but that's probably due to tax laws. Cheers, Andy. Thanks very much for stopping by. I really do like the Danish pipe shop. Their service is good. And they have a good range of pipes. They've got one of the best ranges. Maybe not on the level of Alpasia. I've yet to buy a pipe from them. Apparently they've got a fantastic service as well. They get you delivered within 2 days. This Acadian Perique, I'm coming towards the end of the bowl. It's still quite dry. For me, I would call this a Burley blend. I wouldn't call it a Perique blend. It's got that dry, almost sort of off-tasting cardboard flavour from the Burleys, which I generally don't like. Carey's, is that in the UK? Actually, I think I might have bought my Dunhill from them. No, I didn't. Well, what is a shame is that you can't get any American tobaccos here in the UK. A bit of a shame. Yeah, I have been on their website. I don't think I've bought. I find the layout of the website not the easiest on the eye. Oh, the Carey's is at the Magic Inch. Magic Inch, home of the Magic Inch pipe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. They've got 15 different brands of tobacco. It's not a huge selection. I wonder if they do their own blending. I mean, they've got a bunch of blends which they're saying are theirs, Carey's and so on, or is it like most house blends where they're just buying bulk and renaming them? Do they actually blend them in-house? Are you being funny, like? See, Ellie, that's some special Acadian flake. It's a very nice blend. It's a Virginia Ford Balkan. There was a time when I first started off with Balkans when I actually preferred it to Penzance. Cheers, Quaker. Thanks for joining. There were times when the Germain's blends here in the UK were difficult to get at times, but at the moment they seem to be in good supply everywhere. It is a Latakia blend, but it's, for me, it's out of all of them, it's got a really distinct fruity Virginia, grassy Virginia kind of flavour to it. So the Latakia definitely isn't. Let me see if I can find my other jar of it and I'll show you what I mean. So that jar is already falling apart, but I've got another jar somewhere. Just bear with me half a tick. It's right in front of my eyes. So if you have a look, you can see there's quite a lot of bright parts to it. And then you've got the black streaks, and at the bottom of the jar you'll see lots of crumbs, black crumbs. The thing with this flake is that it falls apart, it crumbles in your hands. As soon as you lift it out of the tin, and nowadays it's a bag or a pouch, it just falls apart, because the Latakia, it's a divine Latakia. It's a fantastic, it's probably for me one of the best Latakia flavours that you can get. A really smooth, sharp, sweet, musty, really, it's got a lovely Latakia flavour, but when you take it out of the jar you end up sometimes with a handful of Virginia with very, very little Latakia. So you have to be careful how you take it out, and you can sometimes get a batch, when you get it in, when you buy it, you can get a batch which has got hardly any Latakia in it, because it's very haphazard the way they put it together, and that's kind of part of the beauty of the blend. So when I buy it, this last batch came from GQ Tobaccos. I asked him to make sure he pulls out some black, some really black looking parts of it. So there is a fair amount of the bright Virginias here, but there's also a decent amount of the Latakia streaks in it. It basically comes quite streaky. I'll take some of it out and I'll show you. Snakes in the road. They come slithering up quietly and then they pounce. Which is what you've just done. Thank you for joining. you see what's happened here? You've got very little. See, the black stuff is just streaked in amongst the Virginia, and you can see what I mean about it being Virginia heavy. And all the black just crumbles off and it gets to the bottom of the jar. So you have to pick it out. And when I first started smoking this stuff, I used to end up pulling out the black stuff with a bit of the Virginias, and then I had a jar full of almost, it was smoky, but it was mostly Virginias left, and it ended up not getting smoked. So I'm quite careful now to mix it up. But as soon as you touch it, it crumbles. But if you get a good bit, to me, it's probably the best Balkan out there. And I don't say that lightly. It's got one of the most refined flavours that you can get. And on the right day, I think it's better than Penzance. And you know what I mean when I say on the right day, because you know, one day a blend can be perfect and the next day you don't really fancy it, but you know, when you're in the mood for it, it's unbeatable. Alright, well I think that's long enough for this first impressions of Acadian Perique. Just to summarise, for me, this, although it contains the kitchen sink, as I said earlier, it has, where are we? It has Virginias, Burleys, Cavendish, Dark-Fired Kentucky, Orientals and Perique, Acadian Perique. Now, when I first lit it, I got Burley. That's it. I thought this was a really Burley heavy blend. And to be honest, it did stay that way pretty much throughout, but the Perique definitely came through after the first few minutes. It definitely evolved, and there was definitely more to this blend. But for the most part, it was Burley and Kentucky for me. I didn't get much of the Orientals at all. And as I said earlier, for me, this needs a little bit of rounding out. It needs a bit of a better balance. I would say that this would be an ideal blend for Burley lovers who just want something else, just fancy a little change, but they still want a central theme of Burley. That's how I would categorize this. And I think to make this a little bit more suited to my palate, I would add a blend to it. I would blend it with some kind of sweet Virginia, and I think that would just centralize it and round it off, and make that more palatable to me. That's a personal thing. Like, if it is not lacquer heavy, then I'm not too interested. Enjoy the clothing, Bombay certainly very much indeed. Good. Aged Magnum Opus from HH. Just re-smoked the last of it at about 2 hours ago. What did you think of that Magnum Opus? It's a very, very nice blend. I thought it was anyway. Don't think I've tried Maltese Falcon. I've got to a point now with Latakia blends that I've got such a wide variety of them that I'm just not buying them anymore. I think the last things that I bought were some vintage Syrian before all the news hit the fan, and I'm happy with what I've got. And I'm sure we'll come back. You know, as the seasons change, I'll get back into Balkans, and I've always got my Northwoods. You know, and Special Latakia Flake. They'll scratch most of the itches that I get for Latakia. I'm not big into the really heavy hitting Latakia, the really campfirey bitter ones. I like the sweet sour ones. That's what I go for generally. So have you tried it, Paul? The Acadian Perique? I was saying earlier on, like, if you want to get American stuff, there are sites you can get it from. These I got from Fort Noggin. This came in today, and came through without any problems. The only problem is the shipping. That's really the problem. So you have to make it worthwhile and buy a decent amount of tins. Otherwise, it is not worth it. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call it a day for now. Thanks very much for joining. This was an impromptu live feed, so I'm going to say thanks very much for joining, and I will catch you